Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Innovation Showcase Theater. My name's Toby, and I have the pleasure of being your host today. Now, we all know that to thrive in the new world of digital business, companies have to innovate at an unprecedented rate. So we're bringing you 11 sessions here in the Innovation Showcase Theater, and where we're going to be sharing with you the latest solutions, service innovations, and best practices, which we know will engage and inspire you here at Cisco Live 2019. Now, today we'll be looking into the network of the future, accelerating human communication. And to tell us about it, it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Sumeet Arora.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Toby, and welcome everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here, and my hello to everyone from the service provider community. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sumeet Arora, and I lead the service provider routing business for Cisco. And today, it is going to be about innovation in this space, in the service provider space. And before I get into the nitty-gritty of all the amazing technology we build, I want to take a moment and step back a little bit and focus on a bigger need, because innovation is about a new match between a need and a solution. So let's look back a little bit at communications and human history. Clearly, 1.8 million years ago, the development of language, and then many other things, printing press, social media recently, evolution in mobile networking. The pace of innovation in communication has only increased. Now, what that means is this has had a profound effect on the work that, on human society, right? This increased pace of innovation means that it has shaped how we have evolved as a society. In fact, it has shaped our DNA. Now, that's a big statement I make, and that's a critical statement, but I make it for a reason. The service provider space, which is my customer base, you all have played a commendable role in driving this acceleration of how humans connect with each other, with machines to machines, but after all, it's all about how we are evolving as a society, as a community. So I just want to celebrate SPs. It's the SPs who have done it. It's not always profitable, but it is a huge, huge mission. So that's the big one, the need for human communication, and it's having an impact. The impact is big, and it's real. Now, let me share a few examples with you. When we talk about these big goals, like saving species, and I know it's a little outside of networking right now, but it's important. If you look at wildlife reserves in Africa, wherever they connected endangered species with safety and security systems, poaching dropped to zero. It's proven, it's happening. Similarly, the advent of internet has meant that the access to education is more universal, it's democratized. So a farmer's son in a poor place has the same access that any one of us has, which is an amazing thing for human development. Again, enabled by service providers, right? World hunger, huge problems, right? We always say it cannot be solved. Sumeet, or please don't focus on world peace and world hunger. We always say that. But let me actually share this with you. The amount of food we produce in the world is actually 30% more than what we need. There is so much wastage. There is so many issues in agriculture in terms of efficiency, in food transportation in terms of efficiency. All that, as it gets connected, as it gets digitized, can help us solve world hunger. This is real. And again, at the center of all this is service provider. So, if I could do a round of applause for SPs, this is where I would do it. Thank you for everything that you've done. Now, we in Cisco are really fortunate and proud to be part of this journey with you. We do see, as this talk is about innovation, I'm going to focus on some challenges. But the word challenges is also the word needs, because needs drive innovation. They drive solution, right? So let's take a look at some of the challenges. Now, in our space, the service provider space, clearly, we all hear about the massive explosion in bandwidth use. We hear about lots of devices coming on the network. We hear about lots of new applications coming onto the network. Now, this is a critical area. What we see, what we expect is in the next 5 years or 4 years, we will have users consume 4 times more bandwidth than they were consuming in 2017. All this while the revenue, average revenue per user remains flat. So that fundamental challenge we've shared with you, we know about that. But there is more to this. There is OpEx, that is 4 to 5 times capex. That's a big one. There is a strategic challenge in the SP space, which is, does the end customer of a service provider connect with the SP, identify with the SP, or does the person identify with the things that are delivered over the connectivity? And that's a strategy issue. That's a strategic imperative for SPs to solve. Because who owns the customer is a big issue, right? So that's a big one. Now, in this environment of explosive growth, flat capex or flat capex, flat revenue, high OpEx, right? The need to identify with the customer. There are a few more. Let me add a few more to the mix. We all have come to utilize this infrastructure for very critical things. The world's business, countries, governments, all the consumers, we all rely on the network for everything. Very critical things. So this is critical infrastructure. And we absolutely want it to be secure and trusted. So that's an important area. And it's not just about costs. It's not just about trust and security. We also need to drive new revenue. We as SPs need to create new revenue streams. So saving money is important. Making money is even more important. So this is a, when we meet with different CTOs, CXOs, CEOs around the world, new revenue is a big area of focus for SPs. So these are all the needs and the challenges, which obviously means it's a wonderful time to be in service provider. Why? Because when you have these challenges and these needs that are at a scale level that no other sector has, it's going to drive new innovation, right? So let's get into that. So we believe that the solution to those needs and challenges is through the network of the future. So what is the network of the future? We believe the network of the future is one that is built for mass scale, which basically means you can scale it and rapidly scale it because it has to keep scaling. So that's important. Second, the network of the future has to be one that is fully automated, because when you are automated, it is not just about reducing operational expense, it is about being close to your customer. It's about your customer's experience. And that's the big driver for automation, because that's what automation enables. And it needs to be intent-driven, right? So that's second. Third, as we discussed, the network has to be absolutely trusted and secure. This is a critical aspect, and sometimes we don't focus on it as much. This needs to be designed in, built in, right? So that's third piece. And last but not least, think of the network as a platform, as a hotbed of innovation. Why do we need that? Because we want the network to enable innovative new services that make new revenue. So this is our vision or framework for the network of the future to address the challenges we talked about. So let me double click further on how Cisco can be a beautiful partner, amazing partner, to drive the network of the future. Excuse me. So what we have done is we have taken that requirement set for the solution, the network of the future, and converted that into a strategy framework, a technology strategy framework. So let me talk a little bit about that. Clearly, designing and building in foundationally trust and security into everything we do. So that's number one. Second is building hardware, software, systems for mass scale. And we'll look at fundamental innovation. We'll double click on this innovation further. I'll go there. Anything that needs to be scaled, it is absolutely critical to do it via simplification. You cannot scale something unless you have simpler building blocks that you replicate. So that's important. It's not just about building amazing routers and switches. We do that, right? We have to do that. But it's about building amazing networks. And it's about building the services on top of networks. So what does that mean? It means that we need to focus on architectures, end-to-end network architectures. These end-to-end network architectures are ones that focus on flexibility, because there is one more thing that is happening in the network, which is it's not just exploding, it's also shifting. So traffic is not moving the way it used to move. There is more multi-cloud environments. There is more handoffs. There are lots of shifts occurring in the traffic. The percentage of video is increasing. So we have to focus on architectures that enable these shifts to happen flexibly. So in that context, we are focused on a converged IP infrastructure. We are focused on massive levels of subscribers, you and I. Excuse me. I'll grab some water. We are focused on supporting massive number of subscribers in the network. This is important. So this requires innovation in terms of cloud scale, cloud native subscriber management, requires us to continue to use network processors for high-speed data planes. So that's a shift. Third one is the requirement to peer in more places. Lots of distribution and peering, which basically is another area of innovation for us. Fourth one is as content gets closer to consumers. And why is that happening? Again, for economics, for experience. It's important that we take innovation to where data is, because that means data is spreading, right? And we heard about that in David Geckler's presentation as well, and in Roland's presentation. So that's a critical shift for us. And in everything we do, intent-driven automation, intent-based automation is absolutely a table stakes. Everything should be automated. Now, once we have done that, the next piece is, if in the SP world, what I see around the world today is, it's not just about connectivity. It is about what happens on top of connectivity. Like, it's not about giving secure internet to you, but it's about giving safety alongside that, right? It's about making sure you don't go to the wrong places, making sure wrong things don't come over. So it's about giving collaboration. It's giving collaboration tools. So there is a lot of focus and emphasis on that innovation layer on top, which is a critical one for the network of the future. So with that framework, I want to jump into the next level of innovation. Double click on the building blocks that we are driving to support these pillars. So let me start with systems. So when we use the word systems, we imply software, hardware, and we also imply the network, because the largest distributed system in the world is actually the internet. So when we look at the systems approach, clearly we are looking at hardware. In the world of hardware, it's about flexibility and efficiency. So the focus of Cisco is, how do we deliver routing and switching innovation, for example, in form factors that allow you to use the right amount in the right place. That's an important one. But you have to do it with the most power and space efficiency. So don't think of this as a boring old area. This is actually still an area where there is innovation, fundamental innovation happening, right? Software. Software has to be one that supports massive automation through APIs, through telemetry, those aspects, zero-touch provisioning. Software has to be one that supports that trust and security we talked about, and I'll double-click on that. Software has to be one that supports simplification, and I'll talk about that as well further. And when you bring these hardware and software systems together in a network, it has to support those architecture shifts that we talked about. So this is a critical part, building block for the innovation, right, that we are driving. Now let's double-click a little bit into systems. This is a unique area of innovation for us. Excuse me. I'm having to speak loudly because of a lot of background noise here. So silicon, a lot of different approaches exist in silicon. There are people who bet on using only their silicon. There are people who bet purely on using what's available in the industry called merchant silicon, so-called merchant silicon. What we have done is we have focused on both because we believe that networking needs to be delivered with the right economics and right flexibility in terms of scale and state. So what we have done is we have embraced both. We intend to offer silicon diversity and choice with both best-of-breed Cisco silicon as well as merchant silicon. Idea at the end of the day is our customers benefit. And this is the change we made a few years ago, and we are extremely excited about it, and we intend to continue this path. And this year, we should see even more innovation coming across the entire spectrum in silicon as 400 gig comes online. So very excited about 400 gig. You will hear a lot about it this year, and I think the Cisco portfolio will evolve in a very nice way to support that. All right. A lot of times we focus on silicon, we forget about optics. But when you look at the network and its economics and its progress, optics is a major area of innovation. When we did the transition to 100 gig, some of you may recall, if you have been around in the industry, that we actually had to develop our own 100 gig optics to help the industry move forward. So what we do with the 400 gig transition is we do a similar approach, which is invest in the right technology players so that the right technology can be built, and also invest in our own technology for 400 gig so that we can move the industry to a new level of flexibility and economics. Now, you would have heard about our Luxtera acquisition. We'll share a lot more details when it closes, but at the high level, we're extremely excited about furthering technology innovation in the optics space, and there's some exciting technology that's coming on board there. All right, so systems, silicon, optics, looks like we built an amazing routing technology. We're obviously looking forward to 400 gig this year on that front. The other building block in innovation is automation. And automation in everything we do is literally like security in everything we build. Now, in this area, clearly the focus for us has been on the entire life cycle. Whether it's planning, whether it's design, whether it's implement, whether it's operate, whether it is optimize, we are focused on the entire life cycle for the service provider. Why are we doing that? Because OpEx in general is 4 to 5 times capex. That's the problem statement. But it is not just about the expenses. When you have a fully automated network, it changes your ability to deliver innovation to your customers. It changes the ability of the SP to improve the customer's experience, and that is a strategic imperative. So with capabilities like EPNM or Network Services Orchestrator or WAN Automation Engine, we are helping hundreds of SPs today automate their network operations. But we're taking this another level with the Crosswork Automation platform, which we launched 12 months ago. And we have an exciting array of new applications and outcomes coming out this year. We are going to help SPs operationalize automation in a new way, with a new paradigm. It's going to be telemetry driven along with traditional methods. It's going to be driven with intent-based configuration engines like NSO. And we're going to enable outcomes like driving change in the network in a much more efficient way, social troubleshooting, so people can troubleshoot together, deploy machine learning in the troubleshooting, and create amazing experiences for your customers by reducing the mean time to know, which means the mean time to root cause problems. And this is just 2 examples of what we are doing. There are many more that are coming out. So a lot of innovation in automation that is occurring, and it's a building block for us. All right, so let's go to trust and security. I am sure that none of us want any of the traffic in the network to go to a place where we don't want it to go. Is that fair? So with that thought in mind, we have been working on this for many years to take the security and trust of infrastructure to another level. Now, when we look at this problem, we look at it holistically. We look at hardware, we look at software, we look at the supply chain, we look at devices like network systems, we look at the network, we look at the users, the applications, and the things that are coming on the network, and we're designing and architecting an entire approach for everything. So just to tease you a little bit, because we will have a lot more coming out this year in this space, think of fundamental innovations. How do you know that the hardware that is actually running in your network is the hardware that was designed and built and not modified? How do you know that the software that is running on your routers and switches is exactly the software that was developed by Cisco, for example, in this case, and signed by Cisco and has nothing else on it? How do you know that when that system is running, nobody has inserted malware on it? How do you protect it from attacks? The network infrastructure gets attacked every day, many hundreds of times. That's what all the statistics and data shows. So how do you keep it bulletproof so that your information, my information, the government's information, country's information is secure and it's in the right place? This is a big one. And I really encourage all of us to make sure that we take this one to heart. We have taken it to heart. It's designed into the system. So you will hear more on this. This is an area of innovation for us. All right. Now that we built systems, we put the best silicon in it, 400 gig, massive density, lower cost, lower power. We put the best optics in it. That was important, right? We made sure it was trusted and secure. We have automation to support. Now let's look at the network, because at the end of the day, we are building networks. So in the past, we talked about segment routing innovation with you. Just as a refresher, segment routing enables an application to get the path, the best path, relevant to that application in the network. So if somebody is playing video games, they get maybe a path that supports low latency so that the 2 people can experience that real-time gaming environment. Whereas if somebody is sending very secure information, they get a fully encrypted path. So segment routing can enable you to drive different applications, and think different applications as different revenue streams on the same network, right? And it can do it at scale and in a simplified fashion. We are happy to share with you that this year we expect 60% of our SP community, our service providers, to deploy segment routing. So why are they doing that? Why are we doing that? We are doing that because segment routing enables simplification of the network. That's reason number 1. Second, segment routing is designed with SDN in mind. So it's designed for automation and control, especially with feedback. So it's defined for that proactive, intelligent control. And third, segment routing with that ability to support different types of applications forms the basis for new revenue streams. So it is my both a matter of pride as well as my humble ask that let's continue to build networks that support multiple revenue generating streams. That's good for our health of the SP and our own health. So that's important. All right, so now that we built the network and we put services on it, let's talk a little bit about architecture shifts, because that's important. Now, what do I mean by architecture shifts? What I mean by that is, it is no longer desirable to build separate IP networks for separate revenue generating streams. Not desirable. It's just too expensive, it's difficult to build, difficult to operate. So clearly, the convergence or the consensus is on converged IP infrastructure. What we want is the same IP infrastructure to support radio, essentially LTE or 5G, to support cable, to support TDM, to support different applications, to support different revenue streams, all on one converged infrastructure that drives the SLAs properly. That's kind of the vision, that's the goal. And most SPs are on that path. So that's happening. And a lot of our architecture with that segment routing, EVP, and building block enables that. So that's one big shift we enable. Second, by 2021, more than 80% of the traffic on your network, on the SP's network, is video. So we are a video delivery network, but we can't ignore the other applications. We have to take care of them too. But we are a video delivery network. So what does that mean? It means that the sources of the video, which means the content providers, cannot be in 2 or 3 locations. Then you're going to haul that traffic across your entire network. That's very expensive. So what's happening is traffic and the content is moving closer to you and I, so that it traverses the least in the network. So what does that mean? It means that we have to peer with content providers like Netflix or anybody else, anybody who provides content. We have to peer with them in more places in the network. Now what happens with that? Peering is the source of the most denial of service attacks. Peering is also the source of the most and the biggest mistakes in routing, causing the biggest number of outages. So one of our architectural solutions that is to build a solution that takes the most capital efficient routing, combines it with automation to protect against routing loops, combines it with automation to protect against DOS attacks, and we create a full solution. That's what we call as smart peering. So one of the big areas of innovation for us in this year is what we call as innovation in architectures, which brings fundamental building blocks together to create a unique solution. Now, in about 3 weeks, we're going to be back here, at least I will be back here, and this building and all these buildings will look very different. It's very amazing how they do that. And we're going to be back here for MWC, the Mobile World Congress. And for the last 2-3 years, there has been a lot of talk about 5G, but I must say, this year, 5G is real. So I would be remiss if I don't spend time on 5G with you. So let me talk a little bit about that. When Cisco looks at the advent of 5G, our focus is on the service provider's profitability. And the reason we do that is we don't want 5G investment from service provider to be only in the cost column to maintain an existing business. We want 5G investment from the SP to be in the cost column to maintain existing business and to grow new business. That's why in Cisco, we are bringing together all of our assets in an architectural fashion to help SPs drive new revenue generating streams. So what are those assets? Clearly, IP networking. We are known for that. Security and trust. We talked about that. Automation, because if you are scaling, You're going massive. You're going Internet of Things. Cannot do it without automation. Packet core, because mobility without the control plane and the data plane for a mobile network cannot do it, right? Data center assets, because as content and data moves outside of public cloud, private cloud, multi-cloud, to telco cloud, to edge cloud, data is going to be in many places. And what that means is innovation needs to be in many places, and especially data center innovation. So data center assets, and then all the value-added services on top, because it's not just about connectivity. It's about safe internet, not just about internet. It's about collaboration, not just about connection. So bringing all those assets with our enterprise capabilities, which we are known for, we are partnering with SPs in a new way, because we want 5G to be about new revenue streams, and that's a big one. Now let me double click a little bit on the IP networking piece for 5G. I'm excited to share that there is a lot of action in the world in terms of upgrading IP infrastructure to support 5G. After all, cell phones or smartphones are going to increase multifold orders of magnitude in bandwidth. That's going to happen. Now, that means network infrastructure needs to be upgraded. So we are going to do that. And we are having amazing success in the world with service providers on upgrading IP infrastructure. And why is that? Because we are RAN agnostic. And that's a critical thing. Because as I said, it's not just about running your RAN traffic through the IP infrastructure. It's about making IP infrastructure ready for the next decade in terms of multiple different use cases. Mobile broadband is one of those use cases. So this is a big one. And with our segment routing innovation, which enables network slicing, we can help at scale make a single network support different applications. So a fully encrypted path, a fully resilient path, a low latency path, a normal best effort path, all that is possible on the same network. And all that should mean different revenue streams for the SP. And that's our vision, and that resonates with the customer base. And this is an area of innovation. Doing this at scale is not easy. So that's the innovation piece here. Because in the past, we had approaches, but they never scaled. Now with SR, we can scale it. With segment routing, we can scale it. The big one for us. Now, it's not just about products and technologies, right? We talked about the network of the future. We talked about the strategy framework, the focus on scale, and those aspects. We talked about the building blocks that support silicon optics, systems, segment routing, automation, and so on, the architectures. It's about customer experience. And our services team, which is now called the customer experience team, is obsessed with customer experience. And they have global scale, global reach, and expertise, amazing expertise to help achieve outcomes. Starting from advice, consulting, to design and implementation, to being able to skill staff. One of the big discussions we have with SP customers is about skills. So being able to do that training, being able to run managed services or support your services, and also two critical areas that are extremely important today. Being able to do security advocacy, security design, because that's critical. And being able to automate. And I'll share an example with you where our CX team literally enabled a provider in a big way. So we'll talk about that. So there is innovation. Obviously, I talked about many areas of innovation, a broad spectrum today. It's a teaser. You will see a lot more coming through this year. But innovation is best when we talk about innovation in action. So let me share a few examples from our SP community, from you all, that we are extremely proud of to be partners with. So let's talk about three of them. First one, a major SP in Europe, Simplification. So what this SP did is they implemented segment routing in their network, which enabled configuration to be reduced by 80%. So 80% simplification in configuration. This is real. This is in production. They also were able to improve latency by more than 50%. So latency reduced by more than 50%. Now what that means is, this is what is achieved, but more than this, it's the progression from here. They are ready to support new services for their customers at speed with better performance. That's what they have readied themselves for, right? Let me take another example, this time from APJ. So one of these customers built a brand new, largest IP MPLS network in the world, ramped up 160 million new subscribers in 18 months, and increased the average consumption of data from mobile, and that has social implications, that has economic implications, by 40x in 18 months. But the best thing is, our CX team partnered with them to make sure that this biggest network in the world was fully automated, which basically means they can push new innovation into this network in days. Not in months, not in years, in days. That is a competitive differentiator. And the third example, again from Europe, from here, nearby, is of an SP that went beyond connectivity. That said, hey, I'm not just going to offer my enterprise customer internet connectivity or business connectivity. I'm going to offer my enterprise customer safety, security. 99% of this SP's customer base has kept that security and safety service, even though it costs a little more. 99% adoption. Win-win. The customer is protected, the end customer is protected from malware, from attacks, and the SP has an increased ARPU. So the message, folks, is very clear. We are extremely excited to partner with service providers. Innovation is hot in this space because the challenges are big for us together as a community. So don't ever think that networking is done. I think the journey has only begun, because we are going to take this to a level that has never been achieved before in terms of scale, in terms of automation, in terms of trust and security, and in terms of this being and us being a platform for innovation where everybody can innovate to rapidly create services and enable new revenue. So I'm extremely excited and proud to be part of this space, and I look forward to our journey together. For any feedback, reach out to us, enjoy the demos and sessions, and look forward to more from Cisco in the coming months. Very excited. Thank you.